Buy cheap and safe NBA 2K22 MT at NBA2King.com. You can use code Excapar, that's EXCAPAR, for 5% off your entire purchase. Alrighty, so the tier lists are almost done, but obviously we have to end it with a bang with ranking all of the best cards in the game, and I decided to go with one of the most ambitious tier lists. Yeah, you guys really can't tell what I'm doing anything here, but I have 3 pages of cards that actually all slightly are in like different positions, but either way we're ranking nearly 150 cards, so basically you can call this like the top 150 cards tier list. I don't know, it's a long time, so bear with me. If you guys like seeing bigger tier lists like this, let me know it down in the comment section below, and I can definitely start getting these out to you guys. But it's a bit of a grind. So anyway, if you guys want to check out the positional tier list point guards through centers, you guys can check those out, link description down below. And anyway, let's start it off big and with a bang by just showing you guys not really with a bang, but showing you guys everybody in the hard pass tier. And here we go. Not the hard pass, worse than the best. I'm tripping today. Anyway, we're starting off with Rubio J. Mayo, who's definitely one of the better, offensive rubies. I just don't really think he has the defense to keep up with a lot of the other cards that we have in the game right now. Is he fun? Hell yes. Is he good? Hell yes. I just don't really suspect too many people are like going out of their way to use Rubio J. Mayo. Mon Ginobili. He's a decent card, but for the grand scheme of pink diamonds, and definitely for the grand scheme of like cards that we have in the game right now, he's definitely a little bit of a letdown, we'll say. Ruby Larry Bird, offensive demon, like actually a really good offensive card. I just don't think he's like anything too crazy out there, anything too fun. He is what he is. But he is a really good like limited card, I guess, to have out there. So you know what? Go my man's Larry Bird. Kevin Johnson. Up next, I think I shared the funny story about him one time where I went out and I did a gameplay with this Kevin Johnson, but he seriously was one of the worst just pure pink diamonds I think I've really ever used in the game. That I couldn't do it. I immediately sold him and just cut my losses because I was having an absolutely horrible time. So offensively, he's supposed to be pretty good. He's supposed to be a good slasher. I just didn't really feel it. But in the grand scheme of like PGs, he can still be kind of fun. I was not having a good time, at least myself, with him. Next up is my man Amethyst Steve Kerr, who actually gets a pretty damn good Evo, gets up to a 85 driving dunk. But if you actually go ahead and look at Steve Kerr, he obviously doesn't have quick first tap or clamps or anything like that, but he only has a 25 driving dunk tendency. Now, he does have a 95 flashy dunk tendency, so I don't know if that really will factor, into how often he dunks. But a 25 driving dunk tendency on a card that gets a dunking, Evo, it's pretty trash. So I don't really know what's going on with that. Like 2K, we get a little fix. But either way, even aside from that, he does have a pretty terrible jumper in set shot 4, which just really doesn't help him out too much. But it is what it is. Next up is my man Sean Livingston. Now, Sean Livingston is a interesting case of a PG, like shooting guard PG, because like he is tall. He does have a 6'7" height. He's a 6'10" wingspan when you Evo him up. He gets Hall of Fame Deadeye in an 85-3, which is nice. And he has good playmaking, but again, no quick first step, and he doesn't really have any defense despite having good defensive, stats. So it's a little weird. Jump shot 27 as well isn't really one that I absolutely love. So I had high hopes for Sean Livingston, but just not a dub. Next up is my man Keith Van Horn. Now the problem with Keith Van Horn is he has that same jumper as Steve Kerr, that set shot 4. So while being 6'10" and having really good badges when it comes to just being, a demon of a shooter, that jumper just really holding back way too much. Talking about bad jumpers, we got Jason Kidd. Again, really good all-around card when it comes to Jason Kidd, but the thing that you'll notice every single time that you use a Jason Kidd card is his jumper is just too trash to really do anything. He's a good playmaker, alright finisher, that despite not being able to dunk. Obviously, he's a great playmaker, but the dude you can't shoot without somebody being right down your throat, ready to just absolutely shut you down. And it's a bit annoying, I guess I'll say that. Next up is my man James Wiseman, who is again a really solid all-around card, I will say that. He's nice, he's fun, he does his thing. And as a grand scheme of like budget centers, he's pretty good, but obviously there's guys like Wong Chi-Chi who are just a little bit better that I'm not really trying to use. Duncan Robinson is up next for Sapphires. Obviously, he's really good, has a great jumper. Jump shot 40 on quick is nice. He's got good slashing, but the defense on this Duncan Robinson is just absolutely horrendous, and I'm not trying to use him. Gerald Green, another card, great offensively, but the dude just doesn't really get the defensive badges that I'm looking for to really make him, that next level, at least personally. If anybody, has fun with this Gerald Green, which I actually have because he does have jump shot 70 on quick. All the more power to you. I just think I would want a card that gets, you know, those great badges just off rip, and he's not really doing that for me. And last but not least for this page is going to be Dirk Nowitzki. I think we all kind of know that Dirk is going to be one of the lower tiered power forward centers whenever we get him, until we get, you know, those good versions. It's just the Dirk jumper is slow. This one's on the normal timing. He doesn't really have good defense. He's supposed to be a good shooter, but he just doesn't really replicate that, and it's sad because Dirk cards are usually really fun. Now, starting off onto the next page, we have a wonderful time showing off more of the hard pass. I think there's actually only a 2-page on the bottom. And we're starting off with the Amethyst Dikembe Mutombo. Now, I will admit this Dikembe is actually a pretty solid card, especially when it comes to, you know, playing just great defense in the paint. Obviously, that's what you get. And he's tall, so we can actually, you know, paint mash quite well. I just think there's a lot of centers who can also do that. And even has another version of himself, which really isn't that expensive, that is also going to be good. So, you know, there's that. Next up is my man Ruby Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose is insanely fast, like a really fun card to use in limited weekends because you can just get to the basket and dunk on everybody. Jumper's actually pretty decent, but you know, missing a lot of badges, not the greatest of stats, and obviously the defense on Ruby Rose is, you know, it's not the greatest. Next up is my man Sapphire Davion Mitchell, who is one of the best just pure defenders that we have in the game. At the Sapphire position, and has a lightning quick jumper, pretty good slashing as well. Like when it comes to a Sapphire, he's great, but obviously, you know, being good for a Sapphire doesn't make you like the greatest of the best cards. So it's a little sad. Next up is my man Danny Green, just a 3-and-D demon, but doesn't really do anything outside of that. And we have a lot of cards who I think shoot the 3 well and still play good defense. Actually, honestly, better defense than Danny Green. So he's a good card and one of the better Amethysts. I'm just like meh on him. Chris Duarte, another one of those kind of 3-and-D shooting guards who I think is good, especially for a Sapphire, but again, I'm just not really jumping out of my socks to use him in any, you know, major capacity, but he is solid. Next up is my man Brandon Jennings, who I was so excited for, but they just killed. They gave him a pretty terrible jumper, which is kind of sad. Not pretty terrible dribble style and dribble 6, which is pretty sad, but his jumper's pretty muddy. Defense is kind of meh. Finishing's a little meh, but dude, I actually really like the jumper, and I've been making a killing just running down with Brandon Jennings, especially in like triple threat, and just shooting a bunch of 3s with those against those lower overalls, and it's been pretty fun. Next up is my man Bobby Jones, who's just a lockdown defender, has a good midi, and is an alright finisher, but really out there to be defensive heavy, and I just don't think that it's worth it. You could pick up Ruby Sadiq Bey, who's going to do everything that this Bobby Jones can do almost, like 75 to 90% of what Bobby Jones does on defense, and can shoot better with a better release by far, and it's just more versatile. So I just don't think Bobby Jones has too much place in the game, at least at the current time. Next up is my man Andre Drummond. I mean, we all kind of know what Andre Drummond does, and it's obviously making him a low tier card. I don't think anybody really can oppose this. The next one that you actually could oppose a little bit, I put him down on the worst of the best because I feel like, again, there's, you know, other centers at lower tiers who are better, but it's Al Horford. I actually quite like this nom at Al Horford. I just think only having bronze clamps kind of hurts this Al Horford a little bit, having to badge up that defense, and obviously his jumper is not the most ideal. His finishing is, you know, but he does come with, you know, gold limitless spot up and can be a nice stretch if people, you know, leave you open. It's just a bit of a beta jumper, so I threw him a little lower, but I will say he probably could move up a little bit if he wanted to. Next up is my man Pink Diamond Rolando Blackman, who has an okay jumper inside shot 3. You know, I don't hate it, I don't love it. I just don't think that you really should be wasting any of your time on Rolando Blackman. He's just not a card who's up there ever really in the top upper echelon of like 2K. It's just not worth your time. Next up is my man Amethyst Paul Pierce, who granted is a good card, but I think his Pink Diamond really isn't that expensive anymore, so I just don't really see a reason that you would just not pick up the Pink Diamond instead of the Amy, despite it being a little bit cheaper. Like, yeah, he's alright, but nah, I don't care. And I think last but not least, into our hard pass tier is going to be Amethyst Patrick Mills, who obviously is a demon when it comes to just shooting, but just has no defense. And I think, again, there's a lot of cards who can, you know, be really good offensively, especially at that point guard position, even at, like, you know, the budget tiers, that it's just not really too worth it to use Patty P over some of the other guys that we have out here, which it's sad because, you know, he's got base 98 and it's fun, but just, you know, it is what it is. And I'm gonna just double check here on this last tier. Yeah, we got nobody else, so we can start off with our pretty damn solid tier, which I'll show you guys everyone in here as well. We have, first off, Pink Diamond Moses Malone, who is a really good, like, small ball center who has, you know, okay shooting, and it's just really good at pretty much everything. But in the grand scheme of things, I don't think he's, you know, this game-breaking, next-level power forward center. He's just alright and pretty damn good. Next up is my man Mo Bamba, who I think if they gave him, like, the quick jumper really could have made up for the fact that they really hoed him on the badges, but they decided to not do that, and I think in general he's just kind of like a good budget center, you know, a really good Ruby center. He has a good jumper, his defense is great, his wingspan is crazy and helps him really lock down better than maybe he should. His post game is alright, and because of that long wingspan, he's a pretty decent paint masher as well, but you know, grand scheme of things, I just think he's a solid all around Ruby center. Next up is my man Mike Conley, who has one curse, and that's the fact that he's short. He's got a great jumper, he's got good defense. Actually, he can't dunk as well, but like everything about his game is solid all around besides dunking, and he's short. So if he was just a little bit taller, this Mike Conley seriously would be like one of the best guards in the game. Next up is one of my favorite Ruby shooting guards in the game, who honestly I think I might sell my Kawhi, just tactically downgrade and use for a while because he's just good. Is teir. He's a great all-around shooter and a really good defender, but is a complete and utter cone, which is why I put him in this pretty damn solid tier. Like, he's not going to be running around and doing anything crazy, especially on the offensive end, but on defense, he is an absolute god, shuts it down, and is just super fun. Next up, Kevin McHale, who I think just has a bad jumper. Just a bad jumper. He's a good defensive card, and I probably could have put him up into the baby demon, moved him up a tier. But there's just a lot of guys who we have at the power forward and center tier who I all feel are kind of around the same level of ability. And McHale for me just didn't really jump out compared to those names, so I threw him down. Next up is my man Diamond Kyle Kuzma, who's essentially like a Amethyst Mikal Bridges, who you stripped down to defense and kind of put a little bit more into offense. And to be honest, I'm not the greatest of fans of it, but he is a good card. You know, DBG's been hyping him up a little bit. Jump shot 80 is nice. He's a good rebounder and a good all-around like power forward, just not really defensively, which is alright. Missed the Kyle Kuzma of days, where he was a pink diamond, was going crazy, but just diamond's alright. Next up is my man, Pink Diamond Carlos Boozer. Might be one of the worst Evos that we have in this entire set, which is why his Pink Diamond's actually going for a bit of MT, because you actually have to go ahead and hit a absurd, I think like 25 or something threes with him, and he has a like 55 3, which is pretty trash. But once you evoke this Carlos Boozer up, he actually becomes one of the best like big man shooters in the game, which is really nice. Then on top of that, Carlos Boozer has some alright paint defense, so he can be an okay center. He's an alright jumper and jump shot one. It's not crazy, but it's alright for a power forward, and his post game is actually pretty good. So, go Carlos Boozer. Next up is my man Amethyst Kawhi Leonard, who I never really was a massive fan of, but I can admit is a good Amethyst, small forward. He's got good defense. He can shoot a little bit. He's just, in my opinion, a pure cone, but that's not really too bad of a thing. Next up is my man Amethyst Josh Smith, who I used so many games. This Josh Smith carried. Seriously, one of the best just defenders in my team right now. I know he's really outdated and doesn't really have the greatest of offense, but his dunking is crazy, and his defense is just next level. Like, you can actually just let this Josh Smith go one-on-one in the post, and you don't even have to control him. He's going to get blocked, and you can just guard the perimeter, which is crazy. And it's nice to have a card like that you can just trust defensively on the court at that time. So Josh Smith, still all around, is one of my favorite power forwards. Just obviously a bit on the lower end. Next up is my man CJ McCollum, who is actually a really good point guard if you throw him on a court to just get buckets, man. Get buckets. Has a good dribble style, a good jumper. Basically, is Amethyst Donovan Mitchell, who without the defense but better offense. And it's a pretty good card. I'll give him that. Just again, you don't really have defense, though you can badge it up and make it better. So I threw him in the pretty damn solid. Next up is my man John Havlicek, who's got I think I'm forgetting. I think jump shot 14, not set shot, jump shot 14. I think. It just all around good defense. This John Havlicek essentially is just one of the best, just all around guards in the game. To play at that shooting guard position, like literally can just do a bit of everything. And obviously, we all love jack of all trades cards. Last but not least for this page is going to be our man Ruby Jarvis Hayes, who essentially is just teir with a little bit more offense, slightly worse defense. But honestly, I think I might prefer over Matisse just a little bit because he doesn't feel as much of a cone as teir, but they're relatively on the same tier. Then to start off our pretty damn solid tier on this side, we can move all these up. This is going to be a longer one. We have Diamond Isaiah Thomas, who is a really good kind of just speed bursting, get to the paint, dunking everybody kind of point guard, which is always great. Still has good defense to go along with it and can play make well. Just a bit outdated and obviously needs a few more badges here and there. Next up is my man Hedo Turkoglu. You can kind of see which cards I've used by if I call him my man or not. But Hedo Turkoglu does have a pretty cursed jumper in the LaMarcus Aldridge. It went from being one of the best since like 2K15, 2K14, something like that, to being one of the worst in the game, which is honestly kind of frustrating. Like, Why did we have to like hurt one of the most historic jumpers in the game like that? Just doesn't make sense to me. But either way, Hito does have that jumper, but it's still a 6'10" small forward, power forward, and really good as a power forward, by the way. Who can just get buckets, has obviously not a great jumper, but has great shooting badges and shooting stats, so he's actually money from the three-point line. And because he's so tall, he can get to the basket pretty well. That shifty dribble style is great. And I think Hito is severely slept on just because he has that LA jumper, but he's actually really, really good. Next up is Glenn Robinson III, who is essentially just a great all-around small forward to have. He is undersized, you know, he's like, I think 6'6", but I mean, if we're talking about just guys who can go out there and you can just trust to play defense, play make, you know, finish actually really, really well, and still shoot, Glenn Robinson's got it. Eric Snow, one of the best budget point guards just in the game because he has great defense. He's basically a 3-and-D PG. Jump shot 28 is great, and he's got good defense. Eric Snow, he's a guy. Next up is Drazen Petrovic, who is just a demon because he can just shoot the three ball. One of the first cards I think that we got with Hall of Fame Limitless Spot Up, and he is great at just shooting the hell out the ball, but he's the definition of a cone. He does have good defense, which is nice, you know, it comes with gold clans, stuff like that, but like, yeah, he's a cone. Next up is my man Donovan Mitchell, just basically a CJ McCollum with defense, like I said earlier, just slightly worse offense, and Donovan Mitchell does hurt from the fact that he is a bit outdated, so, you know, I had to knock him a few points for that, but I still like this card, man. Next up is my man Deshaun Stevenson, who is a 3-and-D beast, just shoots a bunch of threes and plays defense, literally all he does. And I just kind of prefer him slightly to Danny Green. I've just used both of them, and I think, in my opinion at least, that Deshaun Stevenson feels better in game. Next up is my man DeJounte Murray, who does have a bit of a slow jumper. It's kind of on that medium speed, but Murray has obviously insane defense. His playmaking was actually really good. I think this version of him has Hall of Fame floor general, which is why I put him up here. And it's just a pretty good playmaker, a really good finisher, like surprisingly good finisher, but obviously we're picking him up for that defense. Next up is my man David West, who essentially is kind of like if you wanted to get that deadlift strength, I think it was out of triple threat online or something like offline or something like that. He's essentially deadlift strength if you just took the defense away, which is still a pretty damn good card. He's got jump shot 40, which is nice. He's got a pretty decent, I think, 6'9" frame. He can play really good as like an offensive heavy power forward. I don't think you should run him at the center position, but he's a really good power forward at just getting damn buckets. And I was surprised with some people going out on triple threat online and just cooking up with him. Next up is my man Clyde Drexler. I put Clyde Drexler on one of the worst of the best point guard or Pink Diamonds list or something like that, and people were very, very upset with me. But let's be honest, Clyde is not one of the best Pink Diamonds in the game, not one of the best cards of the game. He's just he's one of the best cards in the game, but he's not really in that upper tier, to be honest. And he's only good because he has insane slashing, so when he finally can get to the basket, he is crazy at that. The problem is he's got the base dribble style, and cards with that just feel so clunky that I just don't want to use them. Jump shot 5 is alright, his defense is alright, he's just all around a good card. I just hate the base dribble style. Next up, Bruce Bowen, essentially another 3-and-D card, comes with Hall of Fame clamps, and it's just great. Jump shot 40 is nice, it is a little bit slow, but if you try to do anything other than shoot threes and play defense, Bruce Bowen feels like trash, feels like trash. And last but not least for this page is going to be my man Pink Diamond Bernard King, who's essentially just another version of Clyde Drexler, but this time he can only play smaller forward, power forward. And I think we have a few on here, and this is still decent tier here. Starting off with Alex Caruso, who I know is a fan favorite because he has a good jumper and has great defense. I just think that the jumper that Alex Caruso has isn't my favorite for a point guard. It just feels a little bit weak, in my opinion. If you disagree, that's perfectly fine. I don't really care. But he's a good playmaker, a defender. He's a good all-around PG. He just can feel a little bit clunky, at least to me, and I just don't really feel like having him as my starting PG, but he's still a good card. Next up, and with us, Robert Covington, a 3-and-D demon at the small forward, power forward, just a great all-around card. Can just feel like a bit of a cone in the other aspects of the game. Next up is my man Vince Carter, who does have a slow beta jumper, but the dude is just good at getting buckets and still has some solid defense to go along with it. So Vince Carter, a bit of a slept-on demon, but he still is pretty nice, especially for this limited weekend being like 85 driving dunk or higher. Next up is my man Tyrese Maxey, who the only, I guess, real negative I can find with him is he does have a bit of a slow jumper, but he's got a nice quick dribble style and just plays good. His stats, badges, stuff like that, a little bit lacking to some of the top PGs, but he's still all around just a good point guard, so I'll give him some credit. Next up is Stevie Nash, my man. I called him Stevie Wonders when I was playing, and for some reason that's the only name that I can think of to call him, just a nickname that I'll give him, Steve Nash. But when it comes to being just a pure shooting and playmaking PG, Steve Nash is the best that there is. If that's your play style, this guy's a god for you. Next up is my man Pink Diamond Stam Jones. Just does his thing. Like, Sam Jones seriously just does his thing. He's just a solid all-around shooting guard. He plays defense. He shoots threes with jump shot 22. He's just a bit undersized. And last but not least is going to be my man Sadiq Bey, who I said is essentially a Bobby Jones, slightly worse defensively, but just a great offensive card. I love the jumper. I just love him in general. Was my starting small forward for a while when I was just using only budget cards, and he's damn good. Like, damn good. Plays so good for a Ruby. Now we can start off our baby demon teir. Which is, this nice little middle tier here, which is starting off with Miles Turner, who is essentially just a 3-and-D center and is damn good at it. Does have, obviously, a slightly slow jumper, a little bit in that mid-speed, but, I mean, if you know what you're doing, you'll be perfectly fine, because this Miles Turner is great, plays amazing paint defense, shoots amazing threes. He's just a good guard, man. Next up is my man Michael Red, who is completely baited by having that base dribble style, which obviously I absolutely hate and why I prefer a guy like Ray Allen. But I mean, when you have the Ray Allen base and you can shoot as well as this Michael Red has, especially off catch, I mean, there is a place for you, especially in clutch time when you can just stand at the 4-point line and chuck whatever you want. It's probably going to go in. Like, probably. Next up is my man Ruby Marcus Smart, just a great all-around card. He just literally does whatever you want. He's got a great jumper, although slightly on the slower side. And Marcus Smart, I think when it comes to like 6'3 PGs, has the best defense that I've felt out of a lot of these guys. They can still finish great. When it comes to Ruby PGs, if you need a budget point guard and you don't pick up Ruby Marcus Smart, you're tripping. Next up is my man Pink Diamond Larry Bird, just one of those pure just shooters in the game. I mean, Larry Bird, Larry Buckets, I mean, he does what he wants. Seriously, he does what he wants. I mean, he can just shoot from anywhere on the court. Has some alright defense, just not really going to be a slasher. Like, if you're trying to dunk, I got some news for you. He's got a 45, so it ain't happening. But aside from that, he's great. Next up is my man Pink Diamond Russell Westbrook. Did a gameplay yesterday. You guys actually seem to really like that one and really like the card in general. Westbrook is just... the dude can barrel down to the basket and do what he wants. Still has good defense. Still has a pretty decent jumper, although obviously we know that's slow. We know it's baited, so you do have to pick your spots. But with this Evo, he gets better shooting. I think he gets Hall of Fame Sniper, if I'm not mistaken. And that Hall of Fame Sniper badge is seriously just next level. It makes his Westbrook just an all-around really fun card. And I actually had a blast just using this Westbrook in general. And he's actually a really good Evo as well. So you just pick him up as Diamond, get him up, and he's great. Next up is my man Pink Diamond Shaq, who, as you would expect, it's a Shaquille O'Neal card. He's going to back you down to the basket and just dunk on everything, get every rebound, and block a bunch of shots. But this one did get an evo to actually move up to be a deadly mid-range shooter. But, I mean, let's be honest, Shaq's jumper still kind of sucks. So it's really not going to be that next level, jumper that maybe you would want. But, I mean, it's a Shaq card that can shoot middies. It's still going to be pretty good. Next up is my man Dave Conlon, just again one of those jack of all trades cards you can play at the power forward center. I don't think he's anything like next level, but he can just do a little bit of everything. Has an alright jumper. He's just a good card. Next up is my man Amethyst Justice Winslow, who feels amazing when you have him on the court. He does have a lack of quick first step, but he actually has a really nice speed, and I just haven't really noticed that it's horrible. That it's anything horrible. Has a really good defense. He's just a great shooter, just a great guy to kind of have as like a secondary playmaker on your team, and it's just so fun. Like, I actually highly rate this Justice Winslow card. He's so fun. Next up is my man Diamond Scotty Barnes, who's currently my starting small forward, probably because I'm a bit of a Raptors fan and I'm a Scotty Barnes kind of stan right now, but we're going to ignore that and just put Scotty Barnes up there. Now, yes, he's got jump shot 11. Yes, it kind of sucks, but I think people are overblowing the jumper with how bad it is. I really don't think it's horrible, especially off the catch, which you should be using the Scotty Barnes with. He'll be perfectly fine. He comes with go quick for steps. You can pass it to him, still drive to the basket. He's got great defense. He's got great finishing. And if this Scotty Barnes, let's just say, had even jump shot 80, just an average jumper, he honestly could be in contention for one of the best small forward power forwards in the game, because everything else is crazy on this card. Next up is my man Pink Diamond Joe Caldwell, who I'm going through evoing again because it's a great MT method. You can basically double your MT by evoing up this Joe Caldwell. So if you didn't know, now you know. This Joe Caldwell is great, man. The dude is seriously one of the most slept on cards once you get him fully evoed up, because he's going to be a great shooter. He's got good defense. Comes with Hall of Fame mismatch now, which is just crazy. And he can slash to the basket like a demon. Just all around super fun card, and people are just sleeping on him because, I mean, Joe Caldwell doesn't really have a name to it. Jump shot 22 is really nice. Like, all around, Joe Caldwell, y'all sleeping on him. Next up is going to be my man Opal Luka Doncic. Now, seriously, probably one of the most underwhelming cards that I think that we've had. And it's sad because, I mean, it's Luka, but The Luka jumper, I think a lot of people, again, overrate that. I just think the timing of when you have to release to green is weird, in my opinion. But if we're looking across the grand scheme of things, like Luka can literally do everything. Yes, he doesn't have that point guard position. Yes, he sells that base dribble style, and that's really the only thing that I think takes away from how good he is. The Luka jumper, yeah, it's not one of the best in the game, but it's still a perfectly fine, serviceable jumper that you can do anything you want with. Hall of Fame clamps is nice once you get that Evo up, although it is a bitch and a half. And he's a great playmaker. Like, for a shooting guard, small forward, he is really good. You can't really use him as a primary ball handler like you would like, because that base dribble style, it ruins any sort of momentum that you'd have with him. And last but not least for this page is going to be my man Pink Diamond Jaylen Brown, who's just an all-around great just defender to have on a court. And then on top of that, can essentially just go out there, shoot the three, finish like crazy. If I'm being honest, I think this Jaylen Brown is one of the most frustrating guys that I've ever gone like against on the defensive end. So you know what? There's that. And now we can move on to this next page where we got pretty damn solid, showing off my man Jamal Crawford, who is one of the most fun cards in the game. Trey Burke base is beautiful, and then you decide to mix that with some of the best dribbling, animations in the entire game, and you then get Jamal Crawford, who is just crazy. You can badge up his defense and make him great, and I think if you do that, you could probably move him up the damn demon. But seriously, he's so shifty, he's so fun. Jamal Crawford's a god. Next up, my man Ja Morant, who is basically a Paul George, who you kind of put in that, I've said it in the last video, you put him in that little Magic School Bus, shrink him down, and he's 6'3", which is actually pretty nice. He's got a good dribble style, I think it's shifty, you get to the basket, literally dunking everybody, can still shoot some threes. Just doesn't come with defense, so you do have to add some clamps and things like that. And what you do, Ja Morant? I mean, he's kind of a demon, man. He's kind of a demon. Next up is my man Pink Diamond Kevin Love, who I was actually pretty excited about, but once you actually go and look at him, once you evo him up, he's essentially just a slightly worse Pink Diamond, or Diamond George Mikan, which is still a good card. I love the jumper. Like, Kevin Love's jumper is just money, man. I was having a field day with it. And essentially what you get with Kevin Love once you evo him up is an all-around offensive demon who doesn't really dunk as well as he should, which is kind of upsetting. It doesn't really have too great a defense, but he's just a great shooter. He still has the threat of literally posterizing everybody on the court, which is fun. Just a good all-around card, man. Go Kevin Love. I just wish he was slightly better at finishing after that evo, but he is really fast, which I'll give him credit for. Next up is my man Eddie Jones, just a 3-and-D assassin, Hall of Fame interceptor. I've said it a bunch, it's probably one of the best badges a card could have, and obviously Eddie Jones has it and uses it to the best of his ability. Shoots a bunch of great threes, plays a bunch of great defense, he can still finish, still play make a little bit. Dude's a god, and it's kind of scary if we might get like a Pink Diamond and Opal or something like that later on in the year. He's gonna be good. Next up is my man Dominique Wilkins. Obviously, Jump Shot 8 is not a jumper that we're all very, super fond of, but it's still fine. I think it's another one of those jumpers that I think people, like, severely over-exaggerate how bad it is. Because with Dominique, the dude is going to slash, and he's going to get buckets on you. Plus, he's a 6'7" small forward, so yes, the jumper's not amazing. But with everything else that he can do on a court, I really don't think it's that bad. Again, it's just awkward to time. Other than that, it's fine. Like, it's fine. Next up is my man, Pink Diamond Damian Lillard. I went ahead and badged up my Lillard, gave him a bunch of defense and everything like that, and the dude's just, he's godly. Yeah, he's fun. He's one of the most fun cards I think you can just go out there and just play with, which is great, because that Damian Lillard jumper on quick is seriously different. His Damian Lillard dribble style, I think that's what he has. It's just great in general. He's just a good card. His playmaking is great. Obviously, his offensive game is just crazy. Once you give him like a clamps and stuff like that, he seriously becomes just one of the better PGs in the game. It's just when you go against Magic and stuff like that, you're going to get popped, which is, it is what it is. Next up is my man Cliff Robinson, who is seriously one of the best just defensive like power forward centers you can have in the game. I'm working my way to get this Cliff Robinson. Like, I'm trying my best to get up there and get him. Again, another card that has Hall of Fame interceptor, and I think Intimidator as well, which is always going to be great. It's a pretty decent jumper. It's nothing crazy, but nothing bad. And it can still finish with some of the best of them. This Cliff Robinson is a demon. If you haven't moved up through triple threat offline, it's probably not too worth it to get him. But if you are kind of in that area where you could get Cliff Robinson, I highly recommend it. Next up is my man Cliff Hagan, who you can essentially imagine to be the, the John Havlicek that I talked about earlier, but just a step up and upgrade from him, and Cliff Hagan is just an absolute demon. He's a really fun card. He shoots a lot of threes, can play some defense, can finish all right. He's just a good card, even though I didn't get the absolute blessing of being able to get him myself. But, it is what it is. It is what it is. Next up is my man Pink Diamond Chris Mullen, who is just one of the best pure shooters that we have in the game. He can just go out and just chuck up threes and be damn good at it. Like, damn good at it. But aside from that, he does have some good defense. He does feel like a bit of a cone, so you got to watch that. But when he gets open, that jump shot 22 does not miss. He fries, man. He fries. Next up is my man Jonathan Isaac, who obviously is some of our favorite cards in the game. I mean, let's be honest. We all kind of love this Jonathan Isaac. He's a god. Jump shot 70 on quick is amazing, and his defense just all around is different. There really isn't anybody that he can't get stopped from getting buckets aside from like the OP centers with a lot of strength. That's really the only negative that you'll find, and the fact that obviously he is missing some badges, which is tough, but I think you can kind of get over it. You can have some fun. Jonathan Isaac, he's still a really fun card and one that I recommend to everybody, especially if you're on a budget. Just throw in the squad because he's a good card, especially as a small forward. Next up is Big Country Bryant Reeves. Obviously, with Bryant Reeves, the jumper, it's alright, even though he doesn't really have anything outside of a midi. But the thing that I think a lot of people don't love about Big Country is just a bit of a disappointment. But aside from that, he is a good card. Like, he is a solid card. He is a fun card to use. And I think some people just, again, are over-exaggerating how bad he is. He's still a fine card. He'll still do whatever you need him to do. He's just, you know, not as good as we could have got, but he's still alright. He's still alright. And last but not least, in this page is going to be my man Blake Griffin, who has, again, people overrate how bad the jumper is. I think it is perfectly fine. I think it is a jumper that you will be fine just having on the squad, doing what you need to do. And what you get with Blake Griffin is one of the best just pure slashing cards in the game. Like, the dude is different when it comes to that. So all around, just a fun card, and I like Blake Griffin. It just obviously can't play defense. And then we can start off and finish the baby demon tier with this. I'll just show you guys these ones. Why not? We got our man Bam Adebayo, who is a undersized center power forward, but still can shoot the three pretty well. It's a fun card to have on the court. It can just do a little bit of everything, which I like, especially the playmaking. Alonzo Mourning, on the jumper, but the dude is amazing defensively. He's a great post guy. He can still finish really well. He can play make a little bit. He's just a good card in general that a lot of people are sleeping on, probably because you don't get him in a traditional means. Like, you have to get him out of the collect level, which is obviously a little bit tough. Next up, my man Aaron Gordon, just a great card in general. I love Aaron Gordon cards. The jumper is smooth, it's consistent for me. He's one of the best slashers that I found in the game, and his defense hits different. Like, he is crazy. I know some people who don't love him because that jumper is a little bit hit or miss, but in my opinion, this Aaron Gordon is one of the best cards you can use, especially as like a clutch time power forward. He's just a god. Next up is my man Diamond Trey Young, who again a lot of people sleep on because slasher dribble style my PG. It's fine, you'll get over it. Hall of Fame clams. He's a great defender. He's one of the best jumpers you could possibly find in the game, man. In the game, he's that different. And I just think he's great. Obviously, that slasher dribble style doesn't allow you to like speed burst or anything like that. But I seriously think people overrate how much you need to speed burst, because this Trey Young gets any bit of daylight, it's a grain. Next up is my man Stevie Franchise, Steve Francis. He does his thing, has a great jumper, like that old Dion Waiters jumper, except they named it because our man was off the edibles on the plane, and they're not really feeling that anymore, so they probably changed the name of the jumper because of that. But other than that, Steve Francis, great offensive guy. Basically, another version of John Morant who could just shoot a little bit better, which is still a damn good card. Just, not the greatest defense. Next up is my man Ray Allen, who is literally just Michael Redd with the slasher triple style. Like, literally the Michael Redd with slasher. That's the best way that I can explain it to you. And last but not least is my man Paul Silas, who's a Draymond Green that can play small forward. 6'7", great defense, Hall of Fame interceptor and intimidator, and just does whatever the hell he wants. He's just, again, an all-around amazing card. And that wraps up our baby demon tier. You tired yet? We cut a lot of cards. My voice is a little tired, but we're going to move on to the damn demon tier, which is starting off with my man Nikola Vucevic, who is a great shooter, just has, not the most amazing defense, but definitely capable enough defense and solid enough defense so you can really get by and do your thing, which is nice. Vucevic is just a great card. He's got post game, he's got finishing, he's got shooting, he's got really whatever you need, just not a lockdown defender. Next up is one of my favorite cards in the game, Mikal Bridges, my guy. Now, Mikal Bridges is great because he's got jump shot 80 and absolutely insane defense. Again, I've said it multiple times, Hall of Fame intimidator or interceptor. When that's on a card, it is crazy. And then you give it to a guy who has a 7'2" wingspan, and it is different. Also has great slashing because of that 7'2" wingspan. Just all around is one of the best cards in the game and one of my favorite cards to use. The dude is just, he's a beast. Next up is my man Opal Zion Williamson, 6'7" power forward. Obviously is tough, but I mean, if you actually look at the stats, the badges, everything on a Zion Williamson card is different. Like, this guy's good. Yes, he's a bit of a letdown, but seriously, the Zion is crazy. I think if this Zion could play the small forward, he would actually be one of the best cards in the game, but because he's a power forward, we all kind of hate on it a little bit. Next up is my man Kevin Garnett, and there's one thing you pick up this Garnett for and use him consistently, and it's defense. That's it. You just pick him up because he can play defense. I mean, he's one of the most versatile defenders in the game. You can stop 1 through 5 and be good at that. And he still has some pretty good shooting, although the jumper's a little baited. His post-game finishing is good. He's just a good card, man. Next up is my man George Mikan, who's essentially Kevin Love with just a slightly different jumper and jump shot 4, and is just better as a dunker. Like Love, you're going to get better shooting, but for George Mikan, you're actually going to do what the glitched essentially is for, and finish better, which is nice. I just slightly prefer this George Mikan to the Kevin Love, although Love is fun. Next up is my man Andre Karolinko, jump shot 29, and some of the most different defense you will find on a card. Seriously, it's just, he's fun to use. I mean, most of us kind of know what Andre Karolinko does, so I shouldn't have to explain it too much, but he's just an all-around super fun, super solid card. They can shoot threes and can play damn good defense and actually finish not that bad. This Andre Karolinko is just frustrating to go against. Next up is my man The Answer, Allen Iverson, who I'm actually currently slowly working towards that beyond level 40. Right now I'm doing, like, Joe Caldwell and stuff like that, but I can also eventually have to do Allen Iverson. Now the thing with Allen Iverson is obviously that he's short, but they did give him the point guard position, and his defense is actually really good. The shooting with that trade break base is amazing. His dribbling moves are great, and he just feels shifty. Obviously, the thing that you're just going to notice with Allen Iverson is that he's short. Like, that's it. That's the only problem with this card, which sucks because he's amazing other than that. I actually just got him, and he's fun. Next up is my man Dr. J. The Rudy Gay base is just beautiful. His defense is great, and I don't know why, but there's just certain cards where it feels like you can never really block them when they go to the paint, and Dr. J is one of those. Every time he gets to the paint, I just feel like, you know what, there it is, I'm getting postered, and it always happens, man. Just specifically with this Dr. J card, it's just frustrating to go against. He's a good defender, he's a good all-around card, so you know what, go Julius Erving. He's a good card. Next up is my man Jimmy Butler, jump shot 22 and just different defense. I mean, he's good. Like, he's just good, which is obviously always a bit annoying when a card's just great. Jimmy Butler's just one of those guys who, when he's on the court, just has that defense that it's like, can you just, like, not? Which is always just, it's frustrating to go against, and he can still shoot threes great. Bit of a cone, and you can't really use him too much, but that defense, yeah, it more than makes up for it, to be honest. Like, more than makes up for it. Next up is my man Jason Richardson, who I'm in between if I want to make that push through Unlimited and, like, get the wins, mainly because I want the Hall of Fame badges to add to Kawhi, to make Kawhi sell for a little bit more. But aside from that, when you get Jason Richardson, you're going to get a great slasher who can still shoot pretty well with a good jumper. He can play make a little bit, play good defense, and it's just going to be one of the best slashers in the game. Which, it's still a good card. It's just not one that I'm really, like, excited for, I guess. Next up is my man Jaren Jackson Jr. Triple J. The man is just one of the best defenders inside the paint. Like, again, I've said there's some cards who just slash, but there's also some cards who just play defense better than other cards. And Jaren Jackson Jr. is one of those, has that Mo Bamba jumper, and it's just nice. If you've used Ruby Mo Bamba and you like him, I highly suggest checking out Diamond Jaren Jackson Jr. getting that upgrade, because they're essentially just pure upgrades of each other, which is awesome. And last but not least for this page is going to be my man Diamond James Harden, who is just different when it comes to getting buckets. James Harden this year, I think, did better on capturing how shifty James Harden is, and it's been really nice. His jumper actually is good now, and he's got defense, which is just great to see. Playmaking is nice, finishing is nice, but just using all those hop steps and stuff like that can be really fun, really satisfying to do. And I think James Harden hasn't been getting enough love for how good he is this year, like in game at least. And I'm really NBA, but yeah, it's okay. Anyway, next up, we have the Baby Demon on this page, starting off with my man Andrew Wiggins, who's essentially a Jimmy Butler who just has slightly worse defense, but can dunk like crazy. Like crazy. Yeah, that's really the main upgrade that you'll notice out there, essentially. Like, yeah, good cards, and I really like this Andrew Wiggins. Jump shot 22 is nice. He's a good card. He's a good card. Next up is my man Gerald Wallace, who just has different defense. Jump shot 4 is obviously pretty nice. That slasher dribble style and just really good slashing makes him just a great, really fun card to have out there. It's just the thing that you'll notice is sometimes he can feel like a bit of a cone, but I think for the most part, you guys won't really mind it because, I mean, when the other team is not really scoring because you're shutting them down like that, it's not really too big of a deal. Next up is my man Evan Mobley, just one of the best, if not the best amethyst just in the game right now. Evan Mobley is just insane. Like, just insane. Like, the dude can actually do whatever the hell he wants. He's a great shooter. He's an all-around versatile defender at every position on a court, and just seriously, it's just, he's crazy. Next up is my man Draymond Green, another one of those cards who just plays defense better than you would expect a card to, and obviously that's going to be fun, good. Now, jump shot 12 is the most amazing jumper. You know, I've covered it a few times. You know, it's good, but it's nothing crazy. But Draymond just has such good defense, and the ability to just do everything, especially play make as a power forward, is just great. And instantly shoots him off my list every single time. Next up is my man Dolph Shay's jump shot 38, and just being one of the fastest shooting power forwards in the game is obviously great, and that's what gets him the head nod here up into that damn demon tier. Next up is my man Detlef Schrempf, 6'10" and can play the small forward. I mean, that is just a massive W. Dude has all-around great defense. The jump shot 40 is great, and he's just all-around an amazing card. Hard to get because I think in the triple threat offline vault or triple threat online, I don't know. I don't really remember which one it is, to be honest. I rarely play online, so I never really can kill the difference between the two. But either way, I have him, and he's good. He's really good. Next up is my man De'Aaron Fox. Just imagine Ja Morant with defense, and you have the air. You don't have to badge it up, so I put him up there because, yeah, that's obviously a big W in the book of De'Aaron Fox, to be honest. Next up is my man Dan Morley, who is just going to be, whenever we can get him, in like, what, 1 week? 2 weeks. 1 week. 1 week. I'm going to go with 1 week. He's going to be one of the best 3-and-D defenders or 3-and-D players in the game. Dude just has different defense. Like, the badges are crazy. His jumper is going to be pretty nice. He's going to be a nice finisher, good playmaker, but just the 3-and-D, oh my lord. Next up is my man Calvin Nat, who's actually, like, a sleeper. This one, he's on the triple threat online board, which is obviously kind of annoying, but Calvin Nat essentially can kind of play that, like, undersized small forward role really well. Not really a great power forward, but dude, if you pick him up, try him out. Calvin Nat, kind of gross. Next up, the man Anthony Davis, obviously a bit outdated just because, you know, he came out a while ago. That's kind of what that means. But he's just got a good jumper in the Anthony Davis. He's got the post game. He's got the defense. He really just has what you need. So he's just all around a good card, man. 80's nice. He's just, again, he's outdated. Next up is my man Diamond Scottie Pippen, who's just an all-around pretty damn good card. The dude just has absolutely insane defense. He really can just lock anything down. He still has good finishing, which obviously we love to see when we need it. And aside from that, can just kind of do a little bit of everything else. Although his jumper is, I mean, let's be honest, it's pretty baited. So yeah, that can be a bit tough at times. Yeah, it's all good. And last but not least of this page is going to be my man Diamond Dikembe Mutombo, who is a great card to just have out there because the dude shoots a lot, or he can shoot well enough, and just has some of the best defense you could possibly find. And with taller players this year, all you have to do is stand in the paint and pump fake, and eventually you're going to get a shot, a bucket. So go to Dikembe. Next up, we can finish it off with this page where we're starting off with these four guys right here. Pink Diamond Nicholas Batum, just again one of the best, most versatile cards you can play at the power forward. I love Batum because jump shot 40 is just great. And he can play make as a power forward, which I've always talked about really liking. He's got good finishing, the good shooting, the playmaking, the defense, and he's, what, 6'9"? It's godly. Next up is my man Wes Unseld, one of the most slept-on cards in the game again because that Kobe Bryant jumper is great, and as a power forward, he is just different. He's just different. I mean, he's just fun. He's just fun. Wes Unseld is a beast and just plays better than he should because he's so small that people kind of forget about it. Don't run him at the center, run him at the power forward, and you'll be golden. Next up is my man Tracy McGrady, who's essentially a 6'8" demigod at the shooting guard when it comes to offense. You do have to badge up his defense, which is kind of tough, and that slasher dribble style kind of holds him back from being, you know, the demon of T-Mac that we know. But he's still a damn good card. He still can get buckets, and when you add clamps and stuff like that to him, he's pretty damn good. You know, he can do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And last but not least is going to be my man Timmy D, who just has some of the best all-around defense I've used on a power forward center card. He can just lock everything down. He play makes great. His finishing is good. His shooting is good. Just all around Tim Duncan. The dude's a beast, man. The dude's a beast. Yes, he does have a slow, medium speed jumper that can take a little bit of time to getting used to, but you'll be fine. I promise, you'll be fine. And that wraps up our damn demon tier. We can start off in our demons, which is starting off with Galaxy Up with LeBron James. I mean, do I have to explain? LeBron is one of the best all-around cards in the game every year. Every year. The dude can shoot, the dude can play defense, the dude can play make, and he can finish and guard like anybody. Even some of the top tier centers. Like, it's just, I mean, LeBron, stop it. You're annoying. You're what? You're 37 now? You need to stop being this damn good. Anyway, we can move on to the next guy, which is my man Pink Diamond Kobe Bryant. Especially picked up one of those juiced NBA 75 anniversary ones. Like, oh my god, oh my god, they're gross. They're souped. Like, they're souped. The Kobe Bryant base is great. Kobe's dribble style is gross too, like for no reason, as one of the best dribble styles in the game, which I am here to see because obviously Kobe's my favorite player of all time, and he's just a great defender. Kobe is seriously one of the best cards in the game. If you pick up one of those souped ones, you essentially have an endgame Kobe. It just sucks that it releases on the normal timing. Next up is my man Klay Thompson, who was, you know, sadly overpassed as the best shooting guard in the game by our man himself, Kobe. Which is, I mean, it's still good company to be in because Klay's got great defense. That shifty dribble style is different. And his Klay Thompson jumper is just amazing. Like, I loved it. Klay Thompson was my starting shooting guard for the longest time, and I had like a 90 win percentage with the guard. He was that good. Just all around Klay. The dude's a demon, man. The dude's a demon. Next up is my man KD. When you have a 6'9" guy with the shifty dribble style, it's always going to be good. His jumper is a little bit slow, I will say that. But, I mean, if you just ignore that fact and just get good with Kevin Durant and his animations just being so shifty and just moving as good as he does, KD he's one of the best cards in the game, easily, as he always is. Next up is the best defender that I have used in the game, and it's really hard to like want to part ways with this card because he's so good. But it's Pink Diamond Kawhi Leonard. Has the Ray Allen base and seriously just locks everything down. Like, Kawhi is just a lockdown defender. He can shoot threes great. He can actually play make pretty nice, and his finishing is really good. His Kawhi dribble style does leave a little bit to be desired, I will say that, as far as cheese goes. But when you use this Kawhi card and can just literally steal anything on a court at like any time, yeah, you'll get over it real fast. Next up is my man Hakeem Olajuwon. I mean, why did we have to get this card? Hakeem can just literally do everything. Like, literally can do everything and can do it at a high level. The only thing that sucks is his jumper is it's a bit trash. But other than that, it's pretty good. Next up is my man Giannis. 2K decided that for some reason this year, we're going to give Giannis one of the fastest and just best green window jumpers in the game. So even when it's on like a 70 rating, you're still not going to miss. And then on top of that, I mean, it's Giannis. So he has some of the best defense you'll find, especially for a guy that plays the power forward. If somebody has Hall of Fame interceptor on this Giannis card, you can basically just say GG to ever passing again in that game, which obviously is just extremely frustrating, and can play make and finish just at a super high level. But this Giannis is just severe cheese. As a center, he is just crazy, and he really doesn't get pumped by some of those bigger guys just because he has a pretty high strength and is just a good card in general. Like, Giannis is annoying. Next up is my man Gary Payton, who I just love to use. I love Gary Payton. This dude just has the best defense you can find on a point guard in the game, which is just great. Has good playmaking. Jump shot 40 is nice, and that shifty dribble style just helps him get open and just get to the basket. Great. And I promise you that 70 driving dunk is a lie. Gary Payton does whatever the hell he wants once he gets down there. Like, dude, seriously, is one of the best just defenders and just pure point guards in the game. Next up is my man Boogie, who I know some people hate on, but I've souped up my Boogie, and he is so good. Like, so good. I gave my man, limitless spot up, stuff like that. He's got quick first step. And the only thing that you really notice as a massive negative in Boogie's game is the fact that he doesn't have, crazy defense, but he still has really good defense at that. It's just not next level. And his offensive game is just crazy. The amount of people that cook up and just drop 40 on their head with this Boogie is just crazy. He's seriously, again, just a really damn good card. Next up is who honestly has been crowned as the best center in the game for a while. Now, he's not the best center in the game anymore. I think some people kind of forget that our guy, who is it, Hakeem Olajuwon, exists. And if it weren't for Hakeem, David Robinson would still be the best center in the game, but he's not anymore. He's just a really good center. As one of the better jumpers, if not the best jumper you really could use on a center this year, which is obviously crazy. So David Robinson, still one of the best. I would say probably number 2, but he's a damn good card. Next up is my man Carmelo Anthony. The fact that Melo has been able to go this long and still be one of the best cards in the game is just crazy. The jumper is great. His finishing is crazy. He rarely gets blocked, and when you badge up his defense, he's one of the just best all-around cards of the game. Mello, still one of my starting forwards. It switches between small forward and power forward, but still one of my starting forwards in the game. And last but not least for this page is my man Pink Diamond Arvidas Sabonis, who's essentially just a slightly taller DeMarcus Cousins. It's just a little bit slow, little bit sluggish, but in my opinion, he's the best screen setter in the game that's not named Hakeem Olajuwon, and it's kind of dirty. Next up in our Demons tier is going to be my man Pink Diamond, Galaxy Opal Stephen Curry, who, if you didn't already know, has one of the best jumpers in the game. They also decided that Steph needed gold clamp so he can just absolutely lock up anybody else that even tries to walk next to him and defend him, and he's just dirty, man. This Pink Diamond Steph is, I keep saying Pink Diamond, this Galaxy Opal Steph is just one of the most annoying cards to go against in the game because there's literally nothing that he can really do wrong, and he does it all at a high level. Like, the dude's just, he's good. He's good, and that jumper is gross. Next up is my man Pink Diamond Rudy Gay, who arguably is one of the best cards in the game. Like, it is a crime that he is as cheap as he is, because Rudy Gay has obviously the Rudy Gay jump shot base, and it's just crazy, man. He has a massive player build. He shoots the three great. He finishes on everybody, and again, for some reason, they thought it was great to give him juice defense at this point in the year. They didn't do that till like an Opal Rudy Gay later on last year, but you know what? I will take it. This guy, he's pretty good. Next up is my man Paul George. I mean, we've talked about Paul George a lot. He's like just been in the top since he came in. He has a pretty decent dribble style. He has amazing defense and just really can do anything on the court, and that's obviously going to make for a really fun card to have in your hands. Like BG, if you can get him, I think out of the triple threat online boards right now, you definitely should either keep him or get some M-Team from that, because the dude, he's crazy. If you can get on a triple threat or triple threat offline, do one of those, get John Wall or Paul George, you're setting yourself up to have a really, really good team. Next up is John Wall. Look at that. John Wall just has every single year one of those just really easy to time, consistent jumpers that you can kind of always use and just always have fun with. And it's no different this year. On top of that, he has great defense. He's one of the fastest cards in the game. So despite having the base dribble style, still feels absolutely amazing and just really, really fun in general. John Wall is a card that does have a lot of hype, but it's pretty worth it considering how good this card is. John Wall in general, he's just good. And again, if you can go and triple that online or offline right now and go ahead and like get this John Wall, I highly recommend it, although it's mostly RNG, so it's kind of tough. But, you know, if you can get him, get him. The guy's good. Next up is my man Bill Russell, who does have a pretty terrible jumper, I will say that. But if you can get over it, this Bill Russell is going to be absolutely insane because his defense is just next level. Like, this Bill Russell literally locks everything down. And you guys know this year, I'm kind of a fan of the defense. And with this Bill Russell, he even has pretty good finishing as well, which is always pretty nice. Bill Russell cards in general usually are just lockdown defenders. This one's no different, and they decided to give him a glitch where now he can actually shoot with a halfway decent jumper. Yeah, which instantly shoots his Bill Russell up into one of the top cards of the game, like, without a doubt. Next up, I'm just going to talk about both these guys at the same time. Now, I personally think that Magic Johnson is better than Penny Hardaway, simply for the fact that you can add more and better magics to Magic that you can't add to Penny. And I just prefer Magic's jumper to Penny's. That's just kind of like a personal preference thing. We're talking about a 6'9" and a 6'7" point guard who have good dribble styles, can get to the basket whenever the hell they want, play lockdown defense inside, and still okay on the perimeter. Magic can play lockdown defense all around the court, but Penny doesn't have clamps. But just all around great playmaking cards. I don't think that they're the best PGs in the game. I think that Steph takes the cake. Obviously, if you back him down with Magic because you're a loser, Magic gonna feel like the better PG. But in the grand scheme of things, if these guys were 6'3", 6'5", they honestly would probably be down the pretty damn solid. But because they're tall, they're alright. Next up is my man Diamond Buddy Hield. If I see any Buddy Hield slander, it is just blasphemous. This card is crazy. Seriously, the best card that dropped in the New Year's resolution set. Because we're talking about 6'4" guy, Kobe Bryant jumper on quick, with a 6'9" wingspan, has Hall of Fame stop and pop, Hall of Fame clamps, ankle braces, pick dodger, and pickpocket, locks everybody down on the perimeter, quick dribble style, great dribbling animations. He's one of the best value cards in the game. We'll just say that. And last but not least is me, my man Pink Diamond Dwayne Wade. I really originally wasn't going to put Dwayne Wade up into like that top tier of cards, because, I mean, he does have the slasher dribble style. We're talking about a 6'4" guy that can also play the point guard position, has a 6'10" wingspan. He's got a 90 shot 3, 95s in the speed. His defense all around is crazy. He comes with Hall of Fame clamps, Hall of Fame quick first step, Hall of Fame downhill, gets Hall of Fame sniper, chef on gold, limitless spot up, and blinders on gold with the Evo. And then Dwayne Wade's jumper is just always one of the best in the game because it's just basically like a base 98 clone, and it's just really damn good. So while I originally wasn't going to put him up there, I was going to have him in the baby D, and I just said, you know what, screw it. I'm throwing up Dwayne Wade into there because I used his diamond. He was one of the best all-around defenders in the game, and it was just really fun to use this Dwayne Wade. He is pretty expensive right now, but I mean, it's for good reason. So there we go. Now, this was a long tier list. I think we are 53 minutes into the recording. Now, if you guys want to see more tier lists like this in the future where I just do massive lists, let me know, and I might break them up into parts. If you want to see that instead of a part one massive one, just a part 1, part 2, let me know that down in the comments. But with a lot of these guys, they're crazy. Now, remember, anybody that's probably skipping to the end of this video, we have the tier list maker here. We have this first page, this second page, and this third page. There are so many cards in here. I'm pretty sure I forgot 1 or 2. Like, I think Wang Chi probably is in this list somewhere. I don't think I actually ranked him, which is a bit of a shame. But if I had to tell you, I'd probably put him somewhere in the baby demon tier. I'm assuming I missed some other cards. But you know what? This was a massive list that I decided to go ahead and make. Again, if you want to check out any of the other tier lists that we have, links will be in the description. The point guards, shooting guards, small forwards, power forwards, and center. They're all, you know, the positional tier lists you can have some fun with and see where these guys relate at their respective positions. But this is just my grand scheme of everything, all over tier lists that we can have some fun with. I might take a little bit of a break from tier lists after this massive list, but it's been a fun one. Like the video if you guys did enjoy. Comment below what you guys think. If you guys would move some guys up, move some guys down, or if some of them are just so perfect, then yeah, let me know. And subscribe if you guys are new. Hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you in the next video.